something you rarely or never hear men say or people say in general is that they plan to fail to do something or they plan to never succeed. So this conversation in this episode today is coming from a article. And so we thought it was is good enough to talk about on a podcast, and it was about why men fail repeatedly. It touched on, I think, 4 points
Mm-hmm.
that were valid points. Some of the points I can say for me, I agree with some points. Some points I did not agree with based on how the writer, wrote the article. But nonetheless, we're gonna go through what Dub Tre thinks are the
Yeah.
reasons why men might repeatedly fail, and people in general. And these things might not even be just related to why men fail repeatedly. It could be just a people thing.
Yeah. So yeah, man, let's jump right into it, man. The first section speaks a lot about your peers, people around you, fellas. I'm talking to the fellas out there, people that could possibly influence you, people that could also hold you accountable in a lot of different ways. So for men, I definitely think it's important for us to understand that when you look around you and you don't see any positive influences that are going to help you be a better person, not just a better man, but a better person, that's something that you definitely want to pay attention to, because directly or indirectly, you could be being influenced in a negative way. So it's important to pay attention to that. It's important to understand that I'm not sitting here saying that you should go out and confront your friends or confront your team of fellas and say, hey, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that. But I think you need to do your own soul searching and say, is this friendship or this family member healthy for me?
Mm-hmm.
And move accordingly. After you can evaluate that particular situation for yourself, you need to be able to move accordingly, because as we said before in many of our other episodes, you can't change people, but the thing that you can change is yourself. You can grow. So I think it's really important to evaluate your environment when it comes to people and when it comes to family. And then also take a look at how you're being influenced. Are you being influenced just because someone said something to you and they're relaying a message and you're just believing anything that somebody says to you? That's another thing. I find a lot of examples in my life where people may have this perception of a particular thing or a person or even me based off of what somebody else told them, and not the actual experience of that particular person. So if you find yourself just believing anything, if you find yourself just being influenced because you may be bored or you feel like you may need that companionship or that friendship, so you just go ahead and go out and do something that may be toxic towards your characteristics, these are signs that you may want to step back and evaluate. What you got, Doug?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. So, we're speaking
Yep.
to the people who want to do better and are trying to do better. That doesn't even necessarily mean you're in a bad place. It's people who are in great places who want to do better.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So don't assume that if you're listening to this, that, if you have a stable job and you have a career and you have a healthy family and you have a good this and a good that, that doesn't mean that you don't want more and that you don't want to do better in some aspect of your life. So, we're not only talking to, the guys that are having issues. We're talking to the guys that want something more than what they have. And I think all of us can speak to that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And like you said, just your peers should be holding you accountable, and you should be holding them accountable without any repercussions that go along with it. Oh, because somebody held me accountable, I'm no longer dealing with that person, when that accountability needed to be done or needed to be said for whatever reason. So that's definitely a good sign. Fellas, if you out there listening, hold your partners accountable, and they should be holding you accountable too. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a big thing I think we should definitely, harp on, because I don't think a lot of that is done.
Right.
I think it's always everything is always kind of done in a positive tone, because you have pride involved. You have a hierarchy amongst men. It may not be discussed amongst them, but there is a hierarchy. So a lot of times, depending on who's saying what, the accountability can't be addressed. So that's something that we need to. It doesn't matter who's saying it. If this person that you're looking at may not have the experience, but they're picking up on something that you may be able to improve, the hierarchy doesn't necessarily mean that that order of accountability needs to be done from the person that's at the top, the person that's the oldest, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or the person that's married versus the person that's single,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Definitely. The last thing I will add to that is that I believe that men, most of us, hold other men accountable. I just don't think most of us actually voice it,
Mm,
because it's a lot of guys who will look at something another guy does in their circle or whatever, and they'll just act different, or they'll hold that person accountable in the light or company of someone else when that person isn't in the room.
right.
So if you're one of these guys in these circles, you know, talk to your friend, man. Talk to your boy. Talk to your folks, and let them know, hey, this is how I feel about something you're doing or something you did. Especially if you're having those conversations when they're not in the room, or you're
Absolutely.
choosing to act differently towards that person. Now, if that person doesn't mean anything to you, and you can care less, yeah, you could just move accordingly. You don't have to say anything. But if this is a person that you value, that you're around, that you care about, then you owe them your voice of accountability. And it doesn't have to be disrespectful. It doesn't have to be belittling. With all due respect and in a manner of helping, you can hold your folks accountable. And eventually they may be upset, but eventually they'll respect you for it.
Right.
They might not like it, but they'll definitely respect you for it.
Yeah, for sure.
So then the next one that this article sort of touched on, and it's the same thing as far as like having folks around you, having people who you can talk to, about certain things. And this part, I think, for men is a little tricky when it comes to having other men in your life that you feel comfortable really expressing your issues to, your secrets to, the things you're struggling with internally. I think it's hard for men to find that person and to believe that that person in their life can be trusted with certain information, because everybody can be trusted to know everything about you, your deepest secrets, your issues, your concerns, your lifestyle, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Your past experiences, your childhood, growing up, traumas, or whatever you have. People, it's not easy to privy everyone to that information, even sometimes your closest friends or whatever. So I think that's a hard one for men.
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely say it's something that burdens men in many ways, mentally and physically. I think that holding on to secrets, depression, anxiety, any of those things because of a trauma or because something that they've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us have been taught just to do that, just to hold on to it
Yeah.
and don't give anybody that access. And I would even go as far to say, excuse me, that a lot of times they do that is because it's been weaponized against them. Things that they've said have either been twisted up and brought back to them and used against them, or they've
Right.
been judged for whatever reason because of their past, and they're trying to change. They're not the same man that they were when they
Yep.
did make those mistakes. I try my best to tell people all the time, if you haven't been around me in the last year, you probably need to re-meet me, because I'm not the same person that I was. I try my best to grow and become a better person.
Yeah.
So, that kind of goes into what we're talking about here. I really think that men, we should find that space to express our feelings
Mm-hmm.
and be able to um, get help. you know,
Yep.
because that's really what I think is what I feel is saying. I think it's really saying that we should be able to be vulnerable when it's needed.
Definitely. So
Yeah,
all that to say, find somebody to talk to.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, find somebody to talk to, man.
Because you know it could lead to abuse in a lot of different
Mhm.
ways. Yourself, other people,
Mm.
suicide. These things are real in our community, so we definitely want to make sure that we vocalize that. Just don't just expect people to just know. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes people have this mentality where they just, oh, you should know that I'm going through something type of attitude.
Right.
No, if you haven't explained it and express that, you can't assume that somebody knows what you're going through. So,
That's right.
um, you know, that's another thing as well. People like to assume that you guys know what I'm going through, and you're just letting these things happen, or you guys aren't checking in on me.
Mhm.
No one has time to read minds, or no one has time to try to figure out what it is that you're going through. Give somebody the opportunity. Now, if they ignore that, then you can move that energy elsewhere.
Right.
But give people the opportunity to help.
That's like a more personal on the personal side, right?
Right.
On a professional level, it talks about having a coach, having someone that can mentor and guide you and like advise you. When I hear a coach, I think more like from a professional sense, but there also are coaches that help with your personal life as well. And again, that leads to speaking to someone, right?
Mhm.
And I think that is generally the overall idea of a lot of these things, from finding people who support you, finding people or someone who you can speak to about any issues or problems or traumas or something you're going through. And then from a professional sense, finding a coach to mentor you and things like that. All these things have to do with you or us communicating with other people.
Absolutely.
So the last one was about counseling, professional counseling, finding someone to talk to that's not a personal friend or a family member, someone who doesn't know you, to provide that professional, objective, perspective
Yeah.
on whatever you're going through. And I'm 100% on board with that one.
Yeah. Me too, man.
You know, definitely find someone, find a counselor. Now, the article said that it thinks every man should have a counselor. Every man needs counseling. It doesn't say every man like who
Right.
has a problem, every man who's doing this, if you're doing that. It didn't identify a particular like man going through a particular thing. It said
Yeah.
every man needs counseling.
Yep. And I would even go to say, to go back to the one before, in regards to coaching, most successful men have mentors. I would challenge anybody that would disagree with that. Most of the successful men that I know and personally have mentors, and it ranges from all ages.
Hmm.
From 20s to 30s to 40s to 50s. The older, the as you go through life as a young man, there is somebody who has been there and done that, and you should definitely try your best to get as much knowledge and information as you can as you fail through this life,
Yeah,
because again, you're going to fail at something. So
right.
so yeah, that goes back to what you're talking about, Dub, when you say most men need a counselor, because I think they are different, but they are related.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely having a counselor, somebody to uh, to do the things that we talked about in the first piece, express those feelings. Identify different things going on with you. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I want to talk about the importance of having a mentor. One of the best things about having a mentor is that that person is there to pour into you. And the difference in that is, so if you have a friend and you two are kind of helping each other out, that's more of a mutual give and take. Like there's a thing there where if you're getting more than you're giving, that can look a certain kind of way. right? In
Right.
that mutual kind of friendship relationship. In a mentoring relationship, that person is there to give to you. That person is there to pour into you. That person is there to support you. You have no other role in that relationship but to try your hardest and allow them to pour into you. Be coachable, take their advice, be honest with them. But the whole point of that relationship is for them to support you. There's not many relationships you're going to find that it's 100% that person supporting you,
Right.
without the expectation that you have to support them too. That
Yeah.
is the beauty of finding that mentor.
Yep. And also, fellas, there are mentoring programs. Research it. There are
Yeah.
programs. There are brothers out here that have a passion to mentor men.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that you understand that that is really, truly a critical piece in becoming successful in whatever it is that you're trying to do or be. And when I say successful, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about financially or career wise. I'm talking about successful in who you want to be as a man,
Yeah.
character wise.
Yeah. It could be parent, it could be husband, it
Right.
could be
Exactly.
success in many levels. It's
Exactly.
not just
Yeah.
about money.
And I
Yeah,
think
man.
people get that twisted up too. People have this perception of what success looks like. Success looks like what you deem it to look like.
Yep. It does.
So yeah, I agree 100%. You want to make sure that you're coachable and make sure that you're willing to ask questions and to be vulnerable to receive that information
Right.
that sometimes may even make you feel uncomfortable. But that's part of growth.
Mm-hmm.
Part of growing and maturing is also part of being uncomfortable in a lot of situations where you may even not understand what's going on. But if you have a mentor there that's going along the ride with you, you can get a better sense of understanding of what it looks like at the end, at the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
And it's not to say that you can't be successful, without a mentor or without
Right.
having a group of people around you can speak to, or without having someone that you could speak to about your traumas, a counselor. Like, yes, you could be successful
Right.
without all of these things. What we're talking about is if you're struggling with how to be successful, or you're struggling with, repeatedly failing at the same things,
Mm-hmm.
at some point, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Sometimes you can't do it yourself. And quite frankly, life isn't made to be successful by ourselves.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
it's just not made to work that way. Nobody is successful by themselves. In
Right.
whatever term you want to use that word, no
That's
one
right.
does it alone.
That's right.
You
No
know what
one
I'm
does
saying?
it alone.
Yeah, no one.
Yeah, man.
What I say outside of those things, the other things that I think hold men back, in particular, from succeeding, or men that fail repeatedly about something. One is not learning from your mistakes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You fail at the same things because you do the same things. You're not learning from your mistakes, which you have to do. You have to look at your mistakes and learn from them and move forward.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. And then having an ego. Men, we have our egos. Some egos are bigger than others, but having that big ego kind of puts you in a space of not learning from your mistakes because,
Right. Right. That's what I was about to say. I was going to say, which will.
right. You know what I'm saying? The ego wants to be praised. It wants to be successful. It wants to win. The ego wants to avoid anything that has to do with improving anything because you already it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that big ego is a killer. And then on the opposite side, the lack of an ego is a killer too, because you fall into a space where you don't think you can be successful. You're like a poor little me, I don't
Yeah.
think I have a chance to be successful. So you fail because you
Right.
don't have an ego.
Yeah. There is a balance that's
Yeah.
needed. There's a balance that's needed. And yeah, man, I agree 100%. Another thing I just thought of while you were talking, a
Mm.
lot of us just don't do the research. We
Right.
don't put the work in. We
Yep.
don't. Everything is a get money, get rich, get it off as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us are not taking the time to research properly when it comes to anything. You know, it could be your career, it could be health,
Mm-hmm.
it could be anything in your life, fellas. So,
Right.
you know, do your best to at least put effort in your research so you can be better prepared for things, which will help you not fail or to learn from your mistakes. A lot of those things. How am I going to learn from my mistake? Well, one of the things you could do is research and find out, okay, what can I do better? You know, what resources do I have?
Okay.
Being able to identify your own resources as a man and understand and actually utilizing those resources. I know people right now who have several forms of resources, meaning that they can tap into different things and they won't, just
Yeah.
because of their pride. You know, they won't even they want to get it on their own. They want to think of it on their own. They want to invent it on their own, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be.
Yeah.
But, you know, research, man. I learned that that's one of the key things that helped me be able to go back and correct some of the mistakes that I made to be better at the next time I attempted that task. So
Yeah. And something I thought about when you said that about the pride thing being in a way, it made me think about going back to what we were talking about, finding people to talk to. You can have different people to talk to about different things. The people that we're talking
mhm,
about having people to talk to, having a mentor, you can have as many mentors as you need for many different things.
right.
You can have particular people you talk to about one thing, another person you talk to about something else. These don't have to be all the same people.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So most people generally want to see other people successful.
Yep.
It's very rare. I think it's more rare to see people who really choose to not want to see other people succeed than there are the later.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
yeah. I mean, I think that there are people that are biased because they think they know who you are, and they may be reluctant because they're basing it off a past experience with that particular person. So let's say
Mm,
somebody comes back and they want to get some advice on something, and that person may kind of hate on them and say, "You're not serious about this business You're not really serious about this,"
right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I would say to that, my advice to that was, for those people who have burnt a lot of bridges and those people who you might be even better off talking to a stranger.
Right.
And believe it or not, most likely in the environment that we live in, most people who have that knowledge typically want to share that knowledge.
Yep.
Like you said, there's I don't know too many people who have a certain plethora of knowledge who don't want to share it, because at some point somebody gave it to them.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
you just have to be able to research and find those types of people, and um, try your best to gain as much knowledge as you can. Knowledge management, that's the big thing now. So
Mm,
you definitely want to um, capture that in a way that's going to help you be successful. And it's just like, you know, somebody on a job has been working for 10 years and then they decide to resign. At that point, that management or that company is trying to get all of that knowledge for those 10 years and grasp it and document it somewhere and put it somewhere, or put it into another person. But they're
hmm
trying to capture that knowledge. And that's what you want to be. You want to be able to try to capture that knowledge, those positive things from those mentors. And like I said, for the people who you should be able to, you should probably know those people that are gonna hate on you and they're like, man, you're not trying to really do nothing. Those are your motivators. So, you know,
Right.
you don't want to get around people that are gonna speak negative. So I don't want you thinking that we're telling you to continuously be a punching bag or the brunt of the joke, which could possibly make you quit. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go out and talk to people. The people that are the bad apples in your crew versus the people that have a positive way of thinking and that can take you seriously. But again, just be mindful of how you try to gain knowledge, because it could end up killing your confidence because people don't, take you seriously.
Yeah, that's a good one. Especially if it's something outside of the lines of what people normally have seen you in. Now, I'm not talking about the burning bridge. Like if you're a person who's burned bridges and now you need help from those people, you need to find a way to mend that bridge.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But, absolutely. I mean, especially if it's something that you were responsible for. So absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, it could be just somebody never seeing you in this light, and they say, "Oh, all of a sudden you want to do this." That's not you.
That's right.
And when people say certain things, you don't do that, or you don't. When you start doing that, they speak to you in a way as if you're supposed to be that same person on that same day at that same moment that person was with you. You're supposed to be like that for the rest of your life. And those people are people that you need to be mindful of and really understand that that's actually a learning moment that you need to teach them. At that moment in time, the roles have actually reversed, because then you need to have a conversation with that person and ask them, do you really think I'm the same person that I was 10 years ago when I was running the street or doing whatever it is I was doing? And you really think that I'm just that same person? You clearly got a lot to learn about life, and you clearly haven't been paying attention to me because I'm growing. So that tells you a lot about that person and the way they think. So just pay attention to those type of things.
And that makes me think about people who let those things bother them. Are, I'm not gonna say they are this person, but having a fear of success, I think keeps men in a space to where I'm not gonna say we fail repeatedly because of having a fear of success, but we don't apply ourselves to be as successful as we possibly can be because we're scared of the stress and the expectations that it comes when we are successful, especially if it's in a space that we aren't normally seen in. But I think that's taught, from grade school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you're in school, the kids who, the answer, but you don't raise your hand.
Yeah.
Because for some reason there's a fear of being right, and you don't want to be looked at as the person who knows the answers. I don't know. It's a very weird mental space that I think some people have been brought up in, to where you feel weird by knowing the answer, or you're treated differently from knowing the answer. And then when you don't know the answer, people shit on you as if you never had the right answer all the other times before.
Yeah. What I equate that to is that it's almost like once you become successful or you answer that question correctly, the target is now on your back to make a mistake or to fail or to lead these group of people down the wrong road, and everything is now on you. And that level of responsibility, I've experienced this in a few different situations where I was very successful in a situation, and because I was very successful, people began to put the target on my back and throw things at me that wouldn't necessarily be fair in a normal situation.
Yeah.
So because I was so successful, the target now became me, and the objective was to make me fail. The objective is now to knock me down.
Yeah.
So now, instead of being on a schedule or having things planned out where I can research and I can apply myself. And now I'm just throwing things at you. I'm throwing things at him so he can, so out the blue. Oh, this didn't. Oh, you succeeded at that. Okay, let me try something else.
Right.
That fear of having that target on your back is a real fear. So,
Yeah.
but what I try to do myself is just block that out and give it my best shot, and understand that I am going to fail. Especially something that you can't possibly see or see that it's coming and it's being thrown at you while in the back of your head. So that target on your back is what I'm thinking about as you break that down to me.
Right. And it's not an easy thing to be comfortable with.
Right. Exactly.
It's not. I don't know if this was a episode about, because the article was why men repeatedly fail.
Yeah. No consistency. I mean, I can think of a lot of reasons why men fail, and I only had to say me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to start. That's one reason right there.
That's right.
We don't start with ourselves.
Facts. Yes,
I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard to really just sit back and say, I need to evaluate myself. I need to be more consistent. I need to be able to listen and learn.
Right.
And some of the things you touched on, pride, is definitely a big thing, and not being coachable, not being able to receive positive information and input, that's critical as well. So yeah, man. Can you think of anything else that would why men fail repeatedly?
Outside of accountability, ego, we talked about that already.
Yep.
Maybe lack of humility. You know what I'm saying? Like not knowing how to be humble.
Yeah.
Overconfident was kind of leads to the big ego piece. But, it's like a difference between like confidence being fed by arrogance versus confidence being fed by humility.
Yeah.
Confidence is a requirement for everyone. Like you should be confident, but what's feeding that confidence is the difference. And I think men who are overconfident, because no one's perfect and we all fail, those kind of men can possibly blame their failures on other people.
Yeah.
Well, this didn't happen for me because that happened. I wrote a proposal for the bank to give me a loan for my business, and they denied me because they just, they don't like my kind of people.
Yeah.
Or maybe your proposal was trash and you should have took it to someone who knows how to write proposals to make sure you submitted the best proposal you could submit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? The ego of doing it on your own and thinking that it can't be any better than what you've done.
Yeah.
Is a real thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you blame the other thing as to why it didn't happen versus thinking, oh, well, maybe I didn't do as a bang up job as I thought I did,
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to like to sum it up, the things that we talked about have to do with, like you said, that sense, that ego, accountability, asking for help, and being able to adapt.
Yeah.
Being able to adapt is a hard thing to do.
It is.
Because a lot of us feel like we shouldn't have to adapt. Accountability and being able to adapt, I would think are really, really hard.
Yeah. And there was this thing I seen when I was younger, and it always stuck with me. It said the only thing constant is change.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And what that did for me when I was younger, it made me realize how important being able to accept change and adapt to change is.
Right.
To speak to what you're saying.
Yeah, man.
The only thing constant is change, because everything is changing. We change every day.
Facts.
You know, the world around us, we're not even that old. The world as we knew it, you know, 25 years ago,
Yeah.
bro, it's not the same world.
Right. 10 years ago.
10 years ago, it's not the same world, you know.
Yeah.
The resources are better, you know, the internet. I mean, there's nothing you can't find on the internet. So, you know, if you're failing at things, man, you just have so many resources now. People, you know, the internet. I mean, it's just so many resources out there. Facebook groups, you know, I don't know, man. There's just so much out there that it's hard for me to believe that people are trying different things, trying to be successful at the same thing and failing for the same reasons.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If
That doesn't make any
gonna
sense to
fail,
me.
if you're gonna fail more than once, you better be failing at something different.
Different, right? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't make sense to me. It's
Yeah,
like, well, how
yeah.
are you failing at the same thing for the same reason over and over and over
Over and over
again?
again. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, I'll leave it at that. That's the best advice that I've heard.